It's time for Around the Ozarks Wake Up Weather, brought to you by Command Family Medicine, Heating and Air Paramedics, The Trailer Ranch, Hewitt Messenger, and Taylor Grubaugh Chevrolet. Here's your host, meteorologist Abby Dyer.
Good morning, everybody. On one of the coldest days we've had around in years, temperatures are starting out sub-zero this morning, and it feels more like -15 to -25 degrees across the Ozarks when you factor in the wind chill. So if you're listening to this, you're in a car, or you're preparing to head out for the day, bundle up. It is dangerously cold. Cover all your skin if you have to be outside in this. It's incredibly cold across the Ozarks. One of the reasons it is so cold is because we've got this blanket of snow, and overnight the skies cleared out. Clear skies, that blanket of snow, it really allows the temperature to drop to an extreme. And that's exactly what we're seeing this morning, with temperatures below zero and not much relief in sight as we head into today. One positive thing about today is that we are going to see the sunshine. I do think, though, that we're going to hold on to this extreme cold warning until noon today. It's dangerous to be outdoors for any extended period of time. Of course, schools closed all across the Ozarks. Yes, because the snow and the road conditions, but another reason, I think the cold could have done it alone. It is so chilly outside. No kids could be standing out at the bus stop for any amount of time or walking to school in these types of temperatures. We've got sub-zero temperatures this morning. It is dangerously cold. That's stealing the headlines for us this morning. We also have clear skies, and many folks that got the winter weather over the weekend are dealing with similar conditions. The temperatures across the country this morning are brutal. In fact, there is a huge area where numbers are below zero, and we, of course, are included in that here in the Ozarks. We will continue to see our really cold temperatures stick with us through much of the afternoon. We've got high temperatures today, high of 17 in Springfield. Still holding on to a north breeze, so I don't expect any of the wind to be too strong, but it doesn't take much of a wind to add to that feels like temperature out the door. Overall, this week, it is going to be cold and dry. Even though I have a gradual warming trend in this 7-day forecast, these numbers are so far below what's typical of this time of the year. It's really kind of hard to even call it a warming trend when we've got temperatures in the 20s and 30s for highs for the rest of the week. Another push of Arctic air is also on the way. I want to let you know this is not the last taste of winter that we have seen. Another very cold boundary is going to come through over the weekend. It could bring some snow flurries with it. At this time, I'm not too concerned with an additional chance for accumulating snowfall. However, there is going to be some really cold air coming back into the Ozarks for the weekend. So some of the best days this week will actually be maybe Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Those are going to be the better days. If you have to get something done outdoors or run errands, I would choose the end of the week just because the temperature lets up a little bit. This snowpack, though, it's here to stay. With all of this cold weather in the forecast, we are not going to be able to melt this off, let alone before the next push of cold air comes into our region. This morning, we've got incredibly cold wind chills. It's better, but not by much tomorrow. Tomorrow, Tuesday's AM wind chill, anywhere from 0 to -10. On Wednesday is similar setup. It could be -10, sub-zero wind chill values, with numbers still feeling incredibly cold by Thursday morning, and highs maybe making it above freezing by Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, with the possibility of sneaking above freezing on Thursday too. Around the country, what's making headlines? Well, it's the same winter storm that came through for us for much of the country. We've got this high impact, far reaching winter storm continuing for much of the Northeast. And today it's turn for New York State, Maine, seeing some snowfall out of this. And of course, the Washington, D.C. area also had the winter weather, as well as the freezing rain over the weekend. So thankfully, we got left out of that situation. We have bitter cold continuing for much of the lower 48, and another boundary is coming through for the weekend. Arctic air, it's going to linger for much of the country, and that's in the national news headlines this morning. You're going to hear about some of the extreme cold and devastation from, say, the ice storms over the weekend, particularly in Mississippi and in Nashville. Huge areas where power is still out and folks are trying to stay warm. All right, it's time for the Around the Ozarks Wake Up Weather Brain Twister trivia question for the day. And the question that I left you with last week was this: What amount of ice accumulation from freezing rain is typically the threshold for the National Weather Service to issue an ice storm warning in many areas? And the options are A, at least an eighth of an inch, B, at least a fourth of an inch, C, at least 1 inch, or D, any measurable ice, even a trace amount. And typically, what most National Weather Service offices do is at least 1/4 of an inch will prompt an ice storm warning. Of course, if you looked at the national map over the weekend, those were everywhere, and rightfully so, because there are some places across the country that got 1 to 2 inches of ice. All right, here's the trivia question that I'll leave you with for tomorrow. Which of these best describes how freezing rain forms, unlike sleet or regular rain? Do you think it is A, that rain falls from the clouds, passes through a shower layer of sub-freezing air near the surface, and freezes instantly upon hitting objects or the ground? B, snowflakes fall directly to the ground without melting, then melt slightly on impact and refreeze? C, supercooled water droplets in the clouds freeze into ice pellets before reaching the ground due to collision with other particles? Or D, warm rain falls through this deep cold layer into small ice balls that bounce on impact? You can let me know your guess. That's at the website aroundtheozarks.com. Thanks to our sponsors, Command Family Medicine, Heating and Air Paramedics, the Trailer Ranch, Hewitt Messenger, and Taylor Grubaugh Chevrolet. I sure appreciate you listening this morning. Stay warm, everybody. There is an extreme cold warning in the Ozarks until noon today. I'll be back to chat with you first thing tomorrow morning.